Adding your first product on Amazon can seem quite daunting. I know, because the first time I did it, I got confused and had a bunch of questions. But don't worry, I'm going to walk you through the entire process step by step so you know exactly what to do and avoid all the headaches that I struggled through. But first, if you're a new Amazon seller, pay close attention. I've learned that you always need to add your Amazon product first before you purchase anything to sell, because I've seen way too many beginners get stuck with hundreds or thousands of dollars of products that they can't sell because they found out after they purchased it that they can't sell it on Amazon. But if you've already purchased your inventory, hopefully you won't end up in that situation, and you'll find out if you are or not after watching this video. Okay, so let's get started. Now, when it comes to listing a product to sell on Amazon, there's two different routes that you can take. The first is listing a product that already exists on Amazon. These are usually a wholesale or arbitrage product from a well-known brand like a Microsoft Xbox or Colgate toothpaste. The second option is creating your own listing from scratch for a private label product. These are products where you take a generic, unbranded item and sell it under your own brand name. Both of these have very different listing processes, so I'm going to break each one down for you in the simplest way possible. But first, in order to add your product to Amazon's marketplace, you need to sign up for an Amazon seller account. You can sign up for an Amazon seller account by going to sell.amazon.com, fill in some information, and then complete the account verification process. If you haven't done that yet, I'll leave a link to a detailed video down in the description below. Once you have a verified seller account, log in, and on the homepage, you can click on the Add Products link here, or you can click on the menu at the top, click on Catalog, Add Products. You'll then end up on the List Your Products page. Now, you can see that you have several options here to choose from, which I'll cover later, but most of these you're not going to use. What I'm going to focus on first is how to add a private label product, because adding a private label product requires you to create a new product listing, which is far more complicated than adding a wholesale or arbitrage product. And many of the steps that you'll see while creating a new product listing will already be covered for adding a wholesale or arbitrage item. Okay, so since we're going to create a new product listing for your private label product that's not currently sold on Amazon, we're going to choose the blank form option here. But before we click start, remember I said earlier, I warned you about getting stuck with products that you can't sell? Take note down here that it says products requiring approval and compliance references. On Amazon, you can't sell whatever you want, and some products need to meet specific compliance requirements in order for you to sell them on Amazon. Just because you see other people selling the product on Amazon doesn't mean that you can, and I'll go over these two issues in the next few steps. All right, now click on Start. Now, I want to point out that I'm not going to go into detail on how to create an optimized listing. That's an entirely different topic on its own. I'm just going to show you the specific steps on how to add your product to the Amazon marketplace. Okay, so on the first step here, you need to enter the item name. If at any time you're confused on what the field is, you can hover your mouse over the question mark and you'll see that this field is the product title. This is the title of every listing that you see in the Amazon marketplace, as you can see here. Now, the final version of your title needs to be keyword optimized using properly researched keywords. Keywords that are relevant and accurately describe your product. Now, it's important that you do this properly so that the Amazon search algorithm can index your listing in order to get you more sales by showing your listing on the first page of the search results. And it's crucial that your listing appears on the first page. Over 70% of all online sales happens on the first page. So not doing this properly will drastically affect your sales and Amazon success. There's actually powerful tools to help you do this. And the tool that I use and recommend is Magnet from Helium 10. By entering a seed keyword, Magnet will pull up all of the relevant keywords for you, like you can see here. And another powerful tool, Cerebro, will actually steal all of your competitors' keywords. If you enter a few of the top sellers into Cerebro, you can find all the best keywords that they're ranking for and use them in your own listing. How powerful is that? If you want to give Helium 10 a try, I have a link to a free trial as well as a coupon for a huge discount for my community, and I'll leave a link to that down in the description below. Now, you can always come back and edit anything in your product listing, but for now, when creating your product listing to see if you're allowed to sell it, or if there's any compliance requirements, just enter something that accurately describes what you're selling. So for example, let's say I want to sell water bottles under my own brand. Notice in the product type field, it automatically chose the category that it believes the product falls under. If it's not the correct category, in my case it isn't, click on Select Other, type in the product here, and choose the correct one from the list. Sports water bottles. All right, now here's where we're going to enter all of the details and information that's related to the product. You can see at the top here that we're on the first step of 5, product identity. In the item type keyword, type in the product again and choose the correct category from the list. Now for the variations option, checkmark this if you're selling products with different designs, colors, or sizes. For example, I don't have any variations. I only have this one version, so I'm gonna leave this unchecked. But a pro tip, if you don't have variations right now, but you think there's a chance that you might in the future, checkmark this option. It'll make adding variations in the future much, much easier. Trust me. Adding variations is a totally separate topic on its own since it can be quite confusing as well. So I'm not gonna cover that here, but I'll leave a link to a detailed step-by-step video on how to add product variations down in the description below. Now, in the brand name field, this is very important, so pay close attention. You do not want to get this wrong because it can create a whole bunch of problems that you won't be able to change later. If you're selling a wholesale or arbitrage item, then you're going to enter whatever you're selling's brand name here. So if you're selling Xboxes, you would put Microsoft here. And I'll go over this in more detail later on when I go over adding wholesale or arbitrage products. So for now, if you're doing private label, you would put your own brand name here. The thing is, if this is your very first product that you're selling on Amazon and you're entering your brand name for the first time, you'll need to go through a brand approval process. And there's 2 ways to get brand approval. If you've registered your brand as a trademark, then you can get your brand approved through brand registry. But if you don't have a trademark, then you can go through the standard brand approval process. Registering a trademark actually has a ton of advantages, such as getting access to brand registry, A+ content, the Vine program to help you get your initial product reviews, and a ton more. So I highly suggest that you go that route. You can register a trademark on the USPTO website, and it only costs around $250. Now, the brand approval process in itself is an entirely different topic on its own, so I'll leave a link to a detailed video that goes over how to do that down in the video description below. Now, if for whatever reason you don't want to go through the brand approval process, then you can check mark this option here. This product does not have a brand name. However, if you choose this option, your product will be listed as generic, and I highly discourage you from doing that. You want to build a brand, and if you list your item as generic now, and you decide to build a brand later, you won't be able to change it to your brand later. You'll have to start all over and create an entirely new product listing, and you'll lose all of your sales history, product reviews, and listing rank. So never list it as generic, but because this is just an example, I'm going to choose generic here. Now, the external product ID, this is the unique identifier for your product, and so many beginners screw this part up. Every product sold around the world has a barcode on it, and this barcode is called the UPC barcode. UPC stands for Universal Product Code, and this is what's scanned when you check out, when you buy something at a store, like at Costco or Walmart. And the UPC barcode is unique for each product. There's no 2 products that have the same barcode. So again, if you're doing wholesale or arbitrage, there's going to be a UPC barcode already on the product, so you can enter that barcode here. However, if you're doing private label, you're manufacturing your own products or you're buying generic products from a supplier, so they're not going to have a UPC barcode on them. You'll need to buy one. But here's an important note. You must buy your UPC barcode directly from the GS1 website. Do not do what I see so many beginners do, and that's buy barcodes from third-party websites just to save some money. It's not worth the trouble and the risk. Amazon requires all sellers to use official GS1 barcodes, and official GS1 barcodes only cost $30 each, and you only need to buy one. If you have variations, then you need to buy one barcode for each variation. And it doesn't matter how many units you have for sale. If you want to learn more about barcodes, how to buy them, how many you need to buy, I'll leave a link to a video down in the description below. Now, I also see people trying to save some money by choosing this option here. I don't have a product ID and applying for what's called a GTIN exemption. I highly discourage you from doing that also because a G10 exemption creates a whole bunch of problems and hassle for you, and you cannot change your listing to a UPC barcode later. Okay, so once you've purchased your UPC barcode from GS1, enter it here. When you buy your GS1 barcode, you'll also get the EAN version and images of both barcodes as well. So if you need to enter the EAN version, enter that here instead. Then choose UPC EAN and click on Next. Now on step 2, description. The first field is the product description. This is the paragraph that appears on each product detail page, like you can see here. This is where you want to provide more information about your product, such as the features and benefits, and why your product is superior to your competitors or anything else that you want to share. And again, you need to do keyword research and include the best keywords here to help generate more sales and improve your listing rank. I'll go over how to do that later on in the video. And take note that all the fields that are highlighted in red or have the asterisk next to it are required. So in the meantime, you can just enter something generic for now. You can always come back and edit it later. Next is the bullet points. The bullet points is a section you see at the top of the product listing here. You can add up to 10 bullet points. So if you want to add more than just one, which I highly recommend, click Add More here. What you want to do for your bullet points is really put some thought into choosing the best key benefits your product has, how your product is uniquely solving a problem that your buyer has, what your product's competitive advantage is, and so on. Don't just put something generic that doesn't help sell your product. I see a lot of sellers just put some generic product features that all the other competitors are saying. Don't do that. Basically, a test that I use is if I can take my bullet points and place them onto a competitor's listing and it applies to their product, then that's not a very good bullet point. And remember, you always want to include the best keywords here. Now, in the images section, here's where you're going to upload your product photos. Now, I can't stress enough how important it is to get professional photos taken. Just because you have a nice camera or you know a friend that has one, it doesn't mean they're experienced product photographers. The quality of your photos alone can determine the success of your product. Professional photos aren't that expensive, and they typically cost anywhere from $75 to $300 range, depending on what you want done, and it'll pay off in the end. You can find really good product photographers on Fiverr.com, or you can even find one local to you. But the thing is, everyone has high quality photos nowadays, so you need to go the extra mile. Your photos need to tell a compelling story. Shoppers are going to make their buying decision primarily based on your photos. Think about your own buying habits. When you're shopping online, what's the first thing you look at? Everyone looks at the photos first, and if you don't see what you like, you move on to another product, right? Your photos need to easily communicate the key benefits and features of your product and what your competitive advantage is so shoppers can see why they should buy your product over your competitors. So really put some thought into it, especially the main photo, since that's the photo that appears in the search results. The main photo needs to be attractive and capture shoppers' attention. Otherwise, your listing will just get lost in the sea of competitors. What I do is do a search for the product and scan through the listings on the first page and see which listings catch your eye. Figure out why those particular listings caught your eye. Is it the layout? Is it the colors? Use those listings as inspiration. Now, if you don't have professional photos yet to upload, you can always upload a temporary photo for now. In fact, it doesn't even have to be a photo of the product you're selling. You just need to upload at least one image in order for your listing to go live once you have inventory. But be aware though, that if you decide not to take your own photos, that you don't inadvertently use someone else's photos. That means be careful using some random photo on Google. It might be copyrighted. And don't steal a photo from a competitor. Use common sense here. Violating someone's intellectual property is a serious offense, and you can have your listing shut down, your selling privileges revoked, or worse, you can actually get sued. So don't use copyrighted material on your listing. And also take note, the photos you upload need to meet Amazon's image requirements. For example, images must be 500 pixels to 10,000 pixels on the longest side. Images must be provided in JPEG, TIFF, or PNG, or non-animated GIF formats. The main image must accurately represent the product as a realistic, professional quality image and not be a placeholder. Have a pure white background. Show the product as 85% of the image. Not have text, logos, borders, color blocks, watermarks, or other graphics covering the product or in the background. And all of these requirements here and here. So make sure you read through these before you have your photos taken. And make sure you follow these guidelines, otherwise your listing will be suppressed until you resolve the issues. Now, click on product details. Okay, so from this point forward, some of the fields that you see on the next few steps may be different than what you see when you go to create your product listing. The fields can vary depending on the product and the category that it's in. Okay, so the first option here is customizations. If you hover over the question mark, we can see that this option is if you're selling a product where the buyer can create personalized and configurable products by offering buyers the ability to add text, upload an image, or select from a set of options available for seller fulfilled products only. So for most of us, we're going to choose no. Okay, and now the model number and model name fields. These are for your own bookkeeping purposes, so you can just make something up here to help you keep track of the product. I recommend using something descriptive that describes the product. For example, for the model number, bottle red 32 for my red 32 ounce bottle. That way, when your product line grows, you can identify what each item is by the model number. Use whatever method works for you. And for the model name, I just put what the product is. Sports water bottle. If you're doing wholesale or arbitrage, then the manufacturer will already have a model number and a model name. It's usually on the box or on the product itself somewhere, so enter them here instead. And in the manufacturer field, if you're doing private label, you're the manufacturer, so put your brand name here. Otherwise, if you're doing wholesale or arbitrage, put the product's brand name here. Now, for the rest of the fields, again, yours may be different, fill in all the required fields. You can see here that all attributes is selected right now. You don't have to fill in all the fields, just the ones that are required, but you can if you want. So for this example, I'm going to fill in these fields here. Okay, now down here in the item dimensions, you're going to enter the size of the product, not the packaging. So for example, I'm going to enter the size of the bottle itself, not the box that it comes in. You can get this information from your supplier if you don't already have it. Okay, now in the next step, offer. On this step, you're going to enter all the details about how you plan to sell your product. In the first field, enter the SKU. This is the stock keeping unit. Again, this is for your own bookkeeping purposes, so if you're tracking your products by SKU, then enter it here. You can make one up if you don't already have one, or you can just keep it simple and use the same thing as the model number from the previous step. But as you can see, this field isn't required. Quantity is how many units you have available for sale. So if I have 100 units to sell, then enter 100 here. Your price is the price you want to sell the item for on Amazon. This is the price that the buyer is going to pay. If you want to offer your product at a lower price, you can set a sale price here and set a date range for when the sale will occur. When you set a sale price, your listing will get this limited time deal badge and the your price will be struck out like you can see here. These are great attention grabbers, especially during a product launch to help you gain more traction. For example, you can set the actual price that you want to sell the product for here in the sale price field, and then set the your price field higher or match the list price. For the item condition, this is almost always going to be new, unless you're selling books or other products where you're reselling used items. So choose new. List price. This is the suggested retail price from the manufacturer. So if you're selling wholesale or arbitrage products, this is what the manufacturer suggests they should be sold for. If you're doing private label, you can make up the price here. I suggest setting this to the highest price you can ever imagine selling the price for. It's important that you set this at the highest price because it can affect the buy box. That's the buy button on your product detail page, and it can affect if any price badges show up or not, like the limited time deal or the strike through pricing, as you can see here. I actually have a separate video that goes over a bunch of price hacks and how to properly set up these pricing fields so that you can leverage these badges and ensure that you don't lose the buy box. And I'll leave a link to that video down in the description below. In the gift options, I suggest always turning this on. This gives your buyers the option to send your product as a gift, and it can help improve your sales, especially if your product is something people would like to give as a gift. Now, here's a very important option, the fulfillment channel. If each time you make a sale, you plan to package and ship the item yourself, then choose I will ship the item myself. Otherwise, if you plan to use FBA, which stands for Fulfillment by Amazon, where you're going to ship your products to Amazon's fulfillment centers and Amazon will handle all of the fulfillment for you, then choose Amazon will ship and provide customer service. I highly recommend using the FBA option, and that's because by using FBA, Amazon will handle all of the order fulfillment for you. Each time you make a sale, Amazon will take care of the picking and packing, labeling, shipping and handling, returns and refunds, and even all of the customer service. All you have to do is ship your inventory to Amazon fulfillment warehouses. And sellers who use FBA will have the Amazon Prime badge on their listing. This is the Prime logo you see on these listings here. This is where shoppers that have an Amazon Prime membership can get Amazon's free 1 and 2 day shipping. Sellers who use FBA generate far more sales than those who don't because shoppers want to get their purchases faster and get the free shipping. Okay, and now in the item package dimensions. This is the size and weight of the package the item comes in. If you're doing private label, you might not physically have a product on hand to measure and weigh, so you can ask your supplier for that information. And down at the bottom, I'm selling this in the US marketplace only, but if you want to sell in other marketplaces, you can make them available by toggling this option here and set the price. And before moving on, a couple of pro tips. If for whatever reason, your product listing won't be ready when your inventory arrives at Amazon, such as your photos aren't ready or for whatever reason, set the offer release date to sometime in the future to postpone your listing going live. When you are ready to go live, then set the offer release date to today's date. That way, your product won't appear in the marketplace with a poor quality listing and trigger the start of the honeymoon period. The honeymoon period is when Amazon helps boost your listing in the search results to help generate your initial sales. And typically that only lasts around 15 to 30 days, so you don't want to waste that. And always set the max order quantity option here to something other than 0. This is a huge mistake I see so many beginners make. Leaving it at 0 means someone can buy as many units from you as they want. Now you might think, why would I want to stop someone from doing that? Well, the problem is, I've seen this happen way too often when a promotion, coupon, or sale is created where the buyer should only be able to use the discount one time for one item, but it was created incorrectly and it allows the user to use that coupon and literally wipe out an entire seller's inventory for pennies. So don't let that happen to you. Make sure you set this to something other than 0. All right, and on to the last step, safety and compliance. Now, I'm going to mention it again here. Depending on what you're selling or the category your product is in, you're going to have different required fields here. So in my case, you can see that these fields are required. In the country of origin, put where you purchased or manufactured your products. In my case, they're made in China and they don't require any batteries. If your product is considered dangerous goods, you'll need to choose the applicable options here and provide additional information and documentation. If there's more than one, you can add them here by clicking Add More. And once you've filled these in, click on Submit. And that's it. Wait 5 to 10 minutes or sometimes even longer, and you'll see your new listing on your Manage Inventory page. Remember, you can always come back and edit your listing at any time and as often as you want. Just click on the Edit Listing option here. So that's how you list your private label product on Amazon. But before I go over how to list your wholesale or arbitrage item, if there's one thing that you're going to get out of this video, it's this next part. So pay close attention. Just because you completed the steps to add your product on Amazon and you didn't see any errors, it doesn't mean everything is fine and dandy. Like I mentioned earlier, if there's any restrictions or compliance requirements, you will need to address them before Amazon will allow you to sell the product. Amazon's system may not have caught it right away, but it will. It may take a few days or sometimes even months later, and when it does, you will have to go through the product approval process or provide compliance documentation before you can sell the product on Amazon. So let's talk about that now. First, Amazon has a list of prohibited products. These are products that you absolutely cannot sell on Amazon. You can see that list here. Amazon also has products and categories that require approval ahead of time in order for you to sell them. This is what's called gated categories. In order to sell products in these categories, you need to get ungated first. You can see a list of categories here and if they are gated or not. And just because a main category is not gated, there may be subcategories that are gated. But getting ungated isn't difficult. For some categories, all you need to do is fill out a form and answer some questions, and you'll get instant approval. Whereas others, you may need to submit some documentation and provide invoices. I'll leave a link to these pages down in the description below. Now, compliance is the bigger issue. For safety, some products may also require certifications and testing, like certain electronics, food, beauty supplies, toys and baby-related products. You won't be able to sell these products without providing the proper paperwork and certifications. Usually, your supplier or manufacturer will have these certifications and test results, but if they don't, it can end up being cost prohibitive if you have to get the product tested and certified at a testing lab. So it's crucial that you find out if the product you plan to sell has any of these requirements, and if so, that you're able to get them. Thankfully, Amazon has a compliance tool that can help you determine if there are any of these requirements. So back on the List Your Product page, down in the compliance references, click on the compliance self-assessment link here. Notice this disclaimer. If you supply products for sale on Amazon, you must comply with all applicable laws and Amazon policies for each of those products and product listings. The information on this page is provided as an informational resource only, and the user is ultimately responsible for confirming the accuracy of the information before submission. So, on the compliance reference page, first choose the marketplace you plan to sell. Then down here, do a search for the product you plan to sell, and the tool will show you if there are any required documentation or certifications that you'll need to provide. For example, let's say you plan on selling outdoor LED lights like these here. Now, these seem pretty innocuous, right? If we do a search for outdoor LED lights, you can see string lights here. And if we click on it, you can see that this product is regulated under UL 588. And in order to sell these on Amazon, you need to provide the following documents: test reports from an ISO 17025 accredited laboratory that show that the product complies with the regulations, standards, and requirements listed above, as well as provide images of the following details here. And make sure you click on the Dangerous Goods Compliance tab here. If the string lights have a battery, for example, you also need to provide all of these requirements that are listed here. Now, do you see what I mean? If you plan to sell this product and you're buying them from China or having them made by some fly-by-night manufacturer where they can't provide these test results, or the product simply doesn't comply with the UL 588 standard, then you'll end up with products that you can't sell. And there's one more issue that can stop you from selling your products on Amazon, which I'll show you next. Now, what if you want to sell wholesale or arbitrage products? When you're selling a wholesale or arbitrage item, instead of creating a new listing like we did before, you need to add your product to an existing listing. So in order to do that, navigate to the List Your Products page, and you have a couple of different ways to find the existing product listing. One way is to use the keywords option. Type in what the product is and then select it from the products that appear. And make sure you choose the one that matches what you're selling. Or you can choose the product ID option and enter the UPC barcode that's on the product and enter it here. The UPC barcode is usually on the package or the product itself. You can see that if you want to sell these Xbox consoles, for example, you need to get approval first. But this isn't always the case. Let's say you want to sell this Elf Skin makeup remover. You can see that it's selling well. It has almost 7,000 reviews and several other sellers selling this product. So let's also try to sell this item. If we do a search, here's the product here. And if we take a look here, you can see that you need to get approval to sell this brand. But also take a look here, it says, you are not approved to list this product and we are not currently accepting applications. Can you see now how important it is to do this first before you buy any inventory? That's why it's vital that you add your product to Amazon first before you buy anything so that you can make sure you're allowed to sell it and that you're not stuck with products that you can't sell. Now, if it's an item that you can sell, like you can see here, then all you have to do is fill in the details in the offer section. All these fields should look familiar to you and submit it. But remember, if you're doing wholesale or arbitrage, you're selling the exact same product as everyone else, so everyone is basically competing on price. If you want to get sales, you'll need to sell it at a lower price than everyone else in order to get the buy box. You can see that this seller currently has the buy box and they're selling it for this price. So in the Your Price field, you can set your price accordingly. And like before, choose your fulfillment option and set your prices here if you're selling on other marketplaces. And notice that you don't have to enter any more details other than what you see here. The listing owner, that's usually the brand themselves, they've already entered all the product details when they created the listing. Now, once you've added your product on Amazon, it doesn't automatically mean you'll start making sales. How well your product launch goes and how well your product sells is highly dependent on your product reviews. Your product must have a 4.5 to 5 star rating, and the more reviews you have, the better your sales will be. And in order to start off on the right foot with any new product launch, it's important that you have a strategy in place before you launch your product on how you plan to get your initial reviews. And this video right over here will show you how to do that.